Okay, so I'm gonna parallel an eco-worthy with the EG4 system inside this trailer, and then I'm gonna go over at least 3 different ways to handle communicating with the inverter, because these 2 batteries don't like to talk to each other. I guess without communication it won't run. Alright, so we gotta find a way to work around that. But first, I need to find a good spot for the battery and get it wired up into the existing system. It's only a few more holes in the floor. Not that big of a deal, right? All right, I've got both batteries strapped to the wall of the trailer. They seem nice and secure. Under them, I just used this rubber bumper that you typically screw onto the back of a trailer door, and that gives a nice, like, isolated mount for it to set on. Behind the battery, I've just got some simple foam thrown in there. On the E-track, I just got this kind of strap connection on the side, and then one of these in the middle between the 2 batteries, and that feels pretty good right there. In case you were wondering, both battery manuals prefer if you mount it in a server rack position, but say it's acceptable to mount on its side or on its back where the connections are facing up. So it's hard to read because it's covered up, but we are acceptable. We have a couple options for connecting up to the inverter. I think the ideal scenario would be if we had a positive bus bar and a negative bus bar, and we could take our cables from each battery. That's jumping over the negative cable. Hope that's clear. Okay, so we've paralleled the 2 batteries together using bus bars, and then we would just take our connection from here and run it over to our inverter. A lot of times the server racks themselves have bus bars that you connect to from the battery, and then you go straight to your inverter. Either way, we gotta be careful about the wiring up here now. So we have breakers on each of the batteries, which is helpful. This one happens to be a 100 amp breaker, and this one is a 125 amp breaker. So my cabling here is rated for either one of these to handle it, which is 4 gauge 105 degrees Celsius cable. And you would think if you had a fault, these breakers would protect you. But the problem is if you had some type of fault up in this inverter or somewhere along these lines here, then you could end up with this battery producing, let's say, 99 amps out of it, and this one could somehow produce 121, so you would have a 220 amp fault happening inside the inverter or on these cables, and neither battery breaker would trip. So we need another breaker in here between this bus bar and our inverter to help protect our cabling from a fire or a fault. Now, when I bought this inverter and the server rack battery with it, it happened to come with a 125 amp DC breaker. So we can plop this in somewhere between the bus bar and our inverter. We do have to be careful if it is a polarized breaker, which means power is only supposed to flow one direction. This one does say line and load, which means that I want my battery on the line side, the top here, and the load, the inverter, on the bottom side. So if you think about it, the inverter can't really feed tons of fault current into the batteries, but the batteries can feed tons of fault current out. So I'm gonna take this and actually mount it something like that. And forgive the size here, I don't know why the printer printed it so tall, but pretend it then connects there. So you have battery current flowing through the breaker from line to load to the inverter, and if something were to happen along this line or in the inverter, this should hopefully trip and protect our wiring. I don't really want to go out and spend money on bus bars for this system, and I don't think it's necessary because I'm going to be charging very slowly from solar to these batteries and discharging slowly because it's just going to connect to simple loads like outlets. I think what I'll do is I'll put this breaker in here, forgive the sizing. I will connect up into the line side and then come out the load side, go into my inverter, and then from this battery, same thing, just kind of come over, go into the inverter. Now, forgive the drawing, you'll see this in just a second, but from my other battery, I'm just gonna connect right back into this same terminal here, and then from this battery, connect up to this same terminal right there. The only problem is my old battery only has 1 terminal on each. It's like the older version of the server rack battery, so we're just going to swap these over. Now, the reason is this battery actually has 2 terminals, so it makes it a lot easier to connect up to on both positive and negative. yeah, there we go. Not the prettiest drawing, but hopefully you understand it's a pretty simple connection, and now you can see the real thing. Here we are. So I've got positive and negative connected to this battery. This negative goes to that battery, and I'm just waiting to connect that last positive. The only other thing I've added is a bonding jumper between the casing of this one and the casing of this one, and it ties back into the inverter up here, which this is connected to the frame of the trailer, and this is connected to the AC ground system for 120 volts and the casing of the inverter. There are my two battery cables coming down, and there's that 125 amp breaker you saw. So I'm just going to power these both on, check the voltages, make sure we don't have any crazy differences, like if that one was completely dead and this one was 100% charged up, then we could have an issue. But the voltage curve of a lithium iron phosphate battery is so flat among the majority of its range that there's really not going to be much current flowing between the two, but I'm still going to check. Breaker is on, BMS is starting up, and if we check these two, we've got 53.37. This battery's at 53.35. So we're so close, it's not gonna matter. Just to be extra safe on camera, both battery breakers are off completely. Safety cover on there. Okay, all right, we're gonna watch this just for fun, but I don't expect to see anything. Switch this guy on, let that start up. Oh, look at that, we got 0.6 amps. Nothing to even fuss about. Okay, the inverter is off. I'm going to switch on the main breaker for both battery banks. That way, when I turn on one of the batteries, it does its pre-charge circuit to charge up the inverter or capacitor so you don't get a big spark or inrush current and possibly blow something. Turn this battery on, and I think we should be good. Moment of truth. Inverter switched on, and now it started flashing a communication error. And that's because I don't have anything hooked up to the batteries, so I can't actually use them. I'm gonna take the original communication cable that came with the EG4 and plug it in. So this one just goes into the RS485. The other end, I'm gonna go back to the EG4 battery here, just plug it into one of those. And we now have communication and the inverter is operating. This method is gonna be the quickest way to get you going. Basically, the EG4 is gonna handle its communications with its battery, and the eco-worthy battery will just sort of go along for the ride at whatever the set points are. Now, there's one other way. You can take the communication cable, plug it into the eco-worthy battery to where it says RS485 number 1. You gotta make sure that the protocol for communicating on the eco-worthy app says pylon. So if you come in and connect to your battery, just make sure that the protocol is set to pylon for the RS485. Now on the EG4 inverter, we're going to press enter and hold. Switches to our menu. I'm gonna select down until I get to number 5. Hit enter, and then I wanna change this up to number 2. So here's the menu number 5 for battery type. We can see AGM, flooded, user defined, and then customize profile number 2 is pylon protocol. I had to go look that up. LI5 is also pylon protocol. It did communicate with the battery and allowed it to start charging, but it did not show state of charge, so I switched back to LI2, hit enter again, exit, and this should change over. I might have to, nope. I was gonna say we might have to power cycle, but not this time. So there we are. Our eco-worthy battery is showing 100% state of charge, but that's only measuring from there, not including that one. However, as this one drops, that'll closely follow along, so it's practically the same thing. As far as I know, there's really no way to get both batteries to talk to each other and the inverter at the same time. A bit unfortunate, but one option we could do is change the setting, that same one, to user defined, and then set our individual voltage levels we want the system to operate at. If I make that change now, we will lose our battery state of charge, but that's to be expected. So I'm gonna go to number 5, hit enter, change from the EG4 communication to use, which is user defined. Hit enter. Now when I come back, there is no more battery state of charge, just voltages, solar, load, that sort of thing. So we made that change in number 5 here, and it says that we have to worry about program 26, 27, and 29 for our voltage controls. Program 26 is the charging voltage. Let's verify that. 26, 56.4. I'm gonna leave it at this, and then I might tweak it depending on how the system behaves. The next one we gotta worry about is 27, which that's the floating charging voltage. So after it hits 56.4, it'll drop down to 54 volts and hover at that. I'm happy with this for now. I might tweak it, but this is a good starting point. The next program to worry about is the low DC cutoff voltage. Its default is 42 volts. To me, that seems pretty low. That's only like 2 volts above the BMS cutoff, and I don't need to go that low, I don't think. So let's adjust this up a little bit. I'm gonna go, up is down and down is up according to this. I'm gonna bring it up to 46 volts to start with and see how that goes and tweak it if I need to. One thing you do have to be aware of is this program 29 has to be above program 12, and program 12 says it's only for AGM and flooded batteries, but I think they need to say user defined as well. That's basically when the inverter would start pulling from the grid rather than your battery. I don't have the grid, but it still has to be set higher than program number 29 if you want to up this one. So we are running this whole system now without communication. We can just pull the plug basically. We can get rid of this completely. I'm gonna put a load on the system with a heat gun here. So we are pulling about 1.5 kilowatts. From both batteries, that's about 30 amps. Let's see how well they're sharing. Okay, almost 15 amps. That's almost perfect split between the two. But this one will have a little bit less resistance because it's brand new and they're shorter cable lengths. But yeah, at least we know we can run without communication if necessary. Might need to adjust voltage settings and things like that and just keep an eye on the system, but it is possible. And then if you wanted to monitor state of charge, you could hook in something like a Victron Smart Shunt and measure it that way, or maybe even Solar Assistant, because I think there's a setting in there that allows you to estimate the battery capacity and state of charge based on how much the inverter pulls or recharges. We're not too tight, no chafing, no bouncing. I'd rather everything be run in conduit, but hey, it's gonna work, I think. All the connections are finished up. I cleaned out the trailer. We are running off the inverter right now, off these batteries. The data communication is from the inverter to the original EG4 battery. Now I've decided to do it this way because it doesn't have Bluetooth, whereas the EcoWorthy does, so I can keep an eye on the EG4 system with its regular communication and the EcoWorthy with the app. You can read from the lights on both batteries if need be, if you're inside the trailer, which isn't so bad. This way, I don't really have to mess with a third system like a shunt or Solar Assistant. However, you could, and you might do that if you had 2 larger battery banks. I'm not sure, but just wanted to show you this way of hooking it up and see what you guys thought. I just installed a 30 amp inlet and a 30 amp outlet so that when my friend takes it to his off-grid cabin, he can power his small cabin with the 30 amp outlet. If he needs to recharge and the solar is not enough on the roof, he can hook up his generator and recharge the system and then shut the generator off and go another day or 2 or 3. I don't know how long it will last. We're gonna try and find out. So if you wanna see how that works, you're gonna have to subscribe. And if you're interested in seeing how I wired up the 30 amp inlet and the 30 amp outlet for typical RV connections, I'll be posting that video. It'll probably be right up here.